Tom had been waiting for this moment for a long time. After months of working hard at his busy city job, he was finally going back to his cabin by the lake. This small cabin was his special place. It was where he could feel calm and happy, away from the loud noises and crowds. He liked the quiet sounds of nature, birds singing, leaves moving in the wind, and the soft splash of water near the shore. He planned to spend a full week there, relaxing and enjoying the fresh air. But just a few days before his trip, his boss called with some urgent work. Tom had to come back early from his vacation to finish the project. It was disappointing, but he understood. He told himself he would make the most of the time he had, even if it was shorter. On that sunny afternoon, Tom drove along the winding road toward the lake. He felt his excitement grow with every mile. The trees around him were tall and green, and the air smelled fresh. Soon, he saw the small wooden sign that said Lakeview Cabins. He turned onto the gravel path that led to his own cabin. As he got closer, something felt strange. The porch light, which usually only came on at night, was on even though the sun was still shining. He squinted, unsure if he was imagining things. Then he noticed the front door was not fully closed. It was slightly open, which was odd because Tom always locked the door before leaving. His heart beat faster. Who could be inside, he wondered. Tom stepped out of his car slowly. He looked around but saw no one nearby. The air was still, except for the soft rustling of leaves. He walked toward the door carefully, not wanting to make too much noise. As he got closer, he saw signs of someone living there. On the porch, there was a small pair of shoes that were not his. Through the window, he could see a jacket hanging on the back of a chair. And on the kitchen table, there was a cup of half-finished tea. Tom's mind raced. Is someone staying in my cabin? How is this possible? He pushed the door open quietly and stepped inside. The wooden floor creaked under his feet. The cabin looked lived in but not how he had left it. The bed was unmade, and there were a few books and magazines stacked on the side table that Tom didn't recognize. The smell in the air was not the fresh pine scent he remembered. It was different, like someone else's perfume. Suddenly, Tom heard a noise from the back of the cabin. He froze and listened carefully. The sound was soft, maybe someone moving or breathing. His heart pounded hard in his chest. Hello. Tom called out, his voice calm but firm. From the corner of the room, a woman stepped forward. She looked surprised to see him. She was around his age, with dark hair tied back in a messy bun. Her eyes were tired but strong. Hi, she said quietly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Tom took a deep breath. Who are you? What are you doing here? The woman looked down for a moment before answering. My name is Karen. I've been staying here for a while. My own home was damaged, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. Tom frowned. But this is my cabin. I own it. How long have you been here? Karen hesitated. About 2 weeks. Tom couldn't believe it. 2 weeks? Without telling me? Karen nodded slowly. I thought I would only stay a few days, but things got complicated. I didn't want to bother you. Tom felt a mix of anger and confusion. This cabin was his place of peace. Someone else had taken it over without asking. But he could see in Karen's eyes that she was not there to cause trouble. She looked tired and scared. Before Tom could say more, a car pulled up outside with a loud sound. Tom looked out the window and saw a police car stopping in front of the cabin. Karen's face changed. I called the police, she said quietly. I wanted to make sure everything would be okay. Tom's stomach twisted. The police? Why? Karen looked at him with steady eyes. Because now, technically, you're trespassing. You didn't know I was here, but I have been living here. Tom shook his head, feeling the situation grow more complicated by the minute. I'm the owner of this place. I have every right to be here. Karen sighed. We'll let the police decide. Tom sat down on the old wooden chair, his mind spinning. The cabin, his special place, was now caught in a strange problem. It was no longer just about a property or a house, it was about people, trust, and choices. He looked at Karen and wondered what would happen next. Would he be able to get his cabin back? Or was this the start of something completely new? Outside, the sound of sirens grew louder, and Tom knew his quiet life was about to change forever. The police officers stepped inside the cabin carefully, their eyes moving around the small space. Tom stood near the door, feeling tense but trying to stay calm. Karen remained quiet, her hands folded in front of her. Neither of them spoke at first. Officer Martinez, a kind-faced man in his 40s, spoke gently. Can you tell us what happened here? Tom took a deep breath. I came back earlier than planned. When I arrived, I saw the door open. Then I found this woman inside my cabin. She says she's been living here for 2 weeks. Karen looked at Tom but didn't say anything. Her face showed a mix of guilt and worry. Officer Martinez nodded slowly. And why have you been staying here? Karen's voice was soft but steady. My house was damaged during a storm. I had nowhere safe to go. I didn't want to cause trouble. I thought this would only be temporary. Tom listened carefully. He could see the truth in her eyes. He felt a little softer inside, but his frustration stayed. This was his cabin, his escape, and now it wasn't. The other officer, a younger woman named Officer Lee, asked, Did you tell anyone in the neighborhood or the homeowners association about this? Karen shook her head. No, I was afraid. I didn't want to be kicked out or cause problems. So I stayed quietly. Officer Martinez sighed. That's a hard situation, ma'am. But technically, since this is someone else's property, you're staying here without permission. Karen nodded again, looking down. Tom stepped forward. I want to be fair. But I need to know why the HOA allowed this. Officer Lee spoke into her radio, then checked her phone. After a moment, she said, the HOA says they knew about the situation but didn't think it was serious at first. They believed it would be short-term and didn't want to get involved. Tom shook his head in disbelief. 2 weeks is not short-term. Karen looked up with a small, sad smile. I didn't mean for it to go on so long. The officers looked at each other, clearly trying to decide what to do next. Tom felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Officer Martinez finally said, We'll have to ask Karen to leave for now. But I understand her situation is difficult. If she wants, we can help her find local services that might offer support. Karen nodded, grateful but still worried. Tom felt mixed emotions. Part of him wanted to be angry and send her away immediately. But another part of him felt sorry for her. He remembered how hard life could be when everything felt uncertain. After the officers finished their talk, Karen slowly packed a few things into a small bag. Tom watched quietly, feeling the strange sadness of losing something he had cared about. When Karen was ready to leave, Tom spoke softly, I'm sorry things turned out this way. Karen looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for understanding, even a little." As she walked out of the cabin, Tom closed the door behind her. The quiet returned, but the peace he had felt before was gone. Outside, Tom sat on the porch and tried to think clearly. The cabin was no longer just a place to relax. It was now tied to a woman's story, a community's decisions, and his own feelings. He picked up his phone and called the HOA office. A calm woman answered. "Hi, this is Tom. I just returned to my cabin, and I found someone living there without my permission. I was told the HOA knew about this. Why didn't anyone tell me?" The woman on the phone sounded sorry. "Mr. Harris, I'm really sorry for the confusion. We knew about the situation but thought it would be brief. We didn't want to disturb you if it wasn't necessary. We should have informed you earlier." Tom closed his eyes, frustrated. "This is my property. I should have been told right away." "I understand, and we will fix this," she said. "We want to help find a good solution." Tom hung up and looked at the calm lake. The sun was slowly setting, casting orange and pink colors on the water. He felt a little better with the hope that the HOA might help. But deep inside, he wondered how long it would take to solve this. And how much his peaceful cabin would change. The next morning, Tom woke up early. He wanted to check the cabin again. Maybe he could clean up and make it feel like home again. But as he walked in, he noticed the signs of Karen's stay. Her shoes by the door, the cup she left behind, the small notes on the fridge. It was clear she had lived here, made this place a temporary home. Tom sat down and thought about Karen's situation. He didn't want to be mean or unkind. Still, the cabin was important to him. It was his safe place. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Tom opened it slowly. A neighbor from down the road, Mrs. Williams, was standing there. She was an older woman with kind eyes. "Tom," she said softly, "I heard what happened. I'm sorry you're going through this. But Karen has had a hard time lately. Maybe there's a way to help her without losing your cabin." Tom looked at Mrs. Williams and nodded slowly. "I want to help. But I'm not sure how." Mrs. Williams smiled gently. "Sometimes, we need to listen first. Then find a way that works for everyone." Tom thanked her and closed the door. He felt the first hint of hope. Maybe the story was not just about property. Maybe it was about people. And maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to make things right. Tom sat on the porch, staring out at the quiet lake. The morning sun shone brightly, but inside, his mind was cloudy. The cabin had always been his place to find peace. Now, it felt like a battlefield. Karen's presence was a reminder that his sanctuary had been broken into, and the tension between them was growing stronger every minute. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Karen approaching the porch. Her face was softer than before, but there was still a sadness in her eyes. She stopped a few steps away and looked down at her hands. "I wanted to say thank you for not calling the police again this morning," Karen said quietly. "I know I shouldn't have stayed here without asking." Tom sighed and looked at her. "It's not that simple. This cabin is my escape. When I saw you here, I felt like everything I cared about was taken away." Karen nodded. "I understand. I'm sorry for making you feel that way." They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of birds filling the air. Tom realized that Karen wasn't just a stranger. She was someone who had been through hard times and was trying to survive. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Tom asked gently. The HOA, your friends, anyone? Karen looked up, her eyes glistening. I didn't want to be a burden. When my house was damaged in the storm, I felt lost. I had no family nearby, and I was scared. I thought I could manage on my own, but I was wrong. Tom listened carefully. He could see the fear in her voice and the strength it took for her to admit her mistakes. Why didn't you at least call me? He asked softly. I would have tried to help. Karen shook her head. I was ashamed. I thought you would be angry. I didn't want to lose this place or make things worse. Tom felt a mix of emotions: anger, sympathy, and a strange desire to help. He knew Karen was in a difficult spot, but he also needed to protect what was his. I want to help you, Tom said finally. But you can't just stay here without telling me. Karen smiled faintly. I understand. Before they could talk more, Tom's phone buzzed. He looked down and saw a message from the HOA. It said they wanted to meet and discuss the situation. I think we need to meet with them, Tom said. Maybe we can find a solution together. Karen nodded. I hope so. Later that day, Tom and Karen met with two members of the HOA at the small community center nearby. The room was quiet, with sunlight streaming through the windows. Mr. Harris, the HOA president, spoke first. Tom, Karen, thank you for coming. We want to find a way to help both of you. Tom looked at Mr. Harris. I appreciate that. But I want to make sure my property is protected. Mr. Harris nodded. Of course. Karen, can you tell us more about your situation? Karen took a deep breath. After the storm, my house was badly damaged. I didn't have money to fix it right away. I was afraid of losing everything. That's why I stayed at Tom's cabin. I didn't mean to cause problems. Mr. Harris looked thoughtful. Karen, the community has some programs to help residents in need. We can connect you with local services that offer temporary housing and support. Karen's eyes filled with hope. Thank you. I want to find a better place soon. Tom spoke next. I want to help her, but I need to know that my cabin will be safe. Mr. Harris smiled. We will make sure that happens. We can arrange for Karen to stay temporarily while she finds other options. And we'll work with Tom to make sure the cabin is protected. Karen looked at Tom. I'm sorry for everything. I hope we can find a way to move forward. Tom nodded. Me too. As the meeting ended, Tom and Karen walked outside together. The tension between them had eased, replaced by a cautious hope. Maybe this is the start of something new, Karen said softly. Tom smiled. Maybe it is. They both looked out at the lake, where the water sparkled in the afternoon sun. It was still the same cabin, the same place. But now, it was also a place of second chances. The days after the meeting passed slowly. Tom spent time cleaning the cabin and fixing small things he had left undone before his trip. He wanted to bring back the peace he once felt here. But even as he worked, the thought of Karen staying in his cabin stayed in his mind. It was not an easy feeling to accept. Karen had left the cabin for a few hours each day, visiting the local community center and talking with the people who wanted to help her. Tom respected her efforts, but he also felt unsure about the future. How long would this situation last? Could they really find a solution that made both of them comfortable? One afternoon, as Tom was repairing a broken window shutter, he heard the soft sound of a car pulling up. He looked up and saw Karen walking toward the cabin with a worried look on her face. Tom, she said, her voice trembling slightly, I need to tell you something. Tom put down his tools and wiped his hands on his jeans. What is it? Karen took a deep breath. I think the HOA called the police again. I didn't mean for this to happen. Tom's heart skipped a beat. The police? Why now? Karen looked at him, her eyes full of fear. I was supposed to meet with them today, but I got delayed. They said because I'm still here without permanent permission, they had to be called. Tom felt anger rising inside him. I don't want the police involved again. This cabin is my home. It's supposed to be a safe place. Karen nodded quickly. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cause trouble. Tom took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. We have to fix this. I don't want to keep living with fear of police visits. Karen looked down at her hands. I don't want that either. Suddenly, Tom's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and saw a message from the HOA, police are on their way to the cabin. Please be prepared. His stomach tightened. They're coming now. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the quiet neighborhood again. Tom stood at the door as two police officers walked up the steps, their faces serious but calm. Officer Martinez, the same man from before, greeted them. Tom, Karen. We heard there's still a problem here. Tom nodded. Yes. Karen has been trying to find help, but she's still here. I want to solve this without trouble. Karen looked nervous but stood beside Tom. Officer Martinez spoke kindly. We understand this is difficult for both of you. But the law is clear. You cannot stay here without the owner's permission, Karen. Karen's eyes filled with tears. I know. I'm trying to leave. I'm working with the HOA to find a place. Tom stepped forward. Is there a way we can avoid another police visit? I want to help, but this isn't the way. Officer Martinez nodded. If you both agree on a plan and communicate with the HOA, we can give you some time. But we need a clear agreement. Tom turned to Karen. Can you stay somewhere else, even for a short time? Karen shook her head. I don't have anywhere yet. Tom looked at the officers. Is there any shelter or community place nearby? Officer Martinez said, there is a shelter a few miles from here. I can give Karen the information. Karen wiped her tears. I will go there today. I promise. Tom felt a wave of relief. Thank you, officers. After the police left, Karen turned to Tom. I'm sorry for all this trouble. I never wanted to bring the police here again. Tom smiled softly. It's okay. We both want the same thing, peace. Karen packed a small bag again and promised to visit the shelter until she found a better place. Tom helped her pack, and for the first time, their relationship felt less like strangers fighting and more like two people trying to help each other. That night, Tom sat by the window and looked out at the lake. The moon reflected on the water, peaceful and quiet. He thought about how things had changed so fast. His cabin was no longer just a place to rest. It had become a place where two stories met, one of struggle, one of hope. The next morning, Tom received a call from the community center. A volunteer named Lisa said they had found a temporary home for Karen in a nearby town. It was small, but safe. Tom felt a small smile rise inside him. Maybe this was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. He called Karen and told her the news. She was overjoyed and grateful. I couldn't have done this without your help, she said softly. Tom replied, "We helped each other." As Karen prepared to move, Tom felt a mix of emotions. He was glad to have his cabin back fully, but also thankful for the time he had spent understanding her story. Before she left, Karen turned to Tom one last time. "Thank you for giving me a chance." Tom nodded. "Take care of yourself, Karen." And with that, she walked away, ready to start over. Days passed slowly after Karen moved out. Tom felt a strange emptiness in the cabin. The quiet was back, but it wasn't the same peace he had before. He kept thinking about Karen, her story, her struggle, and how close their lives had become for a short time. Tom decided to visit the local community center again. He wanted to learn more about how the neighborhood helped people like Karen. Maybe there was something he could do to make sure no one else had to live through what she did. When he arrived, Lisa, the volunteer who had helped Karen, greeted him with a warm smile. "Tom, it's good to see you." "Thank you for helping Karen," Tom said. "I want to do something too." Lisa nodded. "That's wonderful. We always need more people who care." Tom looked around the small building. It was filled with photos and notes from people who had been helped. He felt hopeful. "Is there a way I can help?" Tom asked. Lisa smiled. "Yes. We have a program for temporary housing, food, and job training. We can use more support, especially from neighbors who understand the area." Tom thought about his job in the city and his free time. Maybe he could volunteer some hours. It felt good to do something positive. Meanwhile, Karen was settling into her new place. It was a small apartment in a quiet town nearby. It wasn't as beautiful as the cabin by the lake, but it was safe and warm. She had a small room with a window that looked out on a garden. Karen spent her days visiting the community center for support. She attended classes on job skills and financial planning. For the first time in weeks, she felt hopeful about the future. One afternoon, as she walked back to her apartment, she saw a flyer on a community board. It was about a volunteer program to help people in need. She smiled softly. Maybe, when she was stronger, she could give back too. Back at the cabin, Tom worked on small repairs. One day, Mrs. Williams, the kind neighbor, came by with a basket of fresh fruit. "Tom," she said kindly, "I'm glad things are settling down." Tom smiled. "Me too. But I feel like this is just the beginning." Mrs. Williams nodded. "It is. Sometimes, when people come together, small things grow into something big." Tom looked out at the lake. The water was calm, and the sky was clear. He thought about the future, and for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to face it. Weeks passed, and Tom and Karen stayed in touch through phone calls and messages. They shared updates about their lives and supported each other from a distance. One evening, Karen called Tom with exciting news. "Tom," she said happily, "I got a job offer. It's not far from here." Tom smiled widely. "That's amazing, Karen. I'm so proud of you." Karen laughed softly. "I couldn't have done it without your support." Tom felt a warm feeling inside. Helping Karen had changed him too. One weekend, Karen invited Tom to visit her new apartment. He agreed, curious to see how she was doing. When Tom arrived, Karen greeted him with a bright smile. Her new home was simple but cozy, filled with small plants and colorful decorations. They sat down and talked for hours. Karen told Tom about her new job, her hopes, and her dreams. Tom shared stories about the cabin and the peaceful lake. As the sun set, they looked out the window at the glowing town lights. "This feels like a new beginning," Karen said softly. Tom nodded. "It does." Back at his cabin, Tom felt a deep sense of gratitude. The events of the past weeks had changed his life in ways he never expected. He realized that home was not just a place, it was the people you cared about and the kindness you showed. Tom decided to keep volunteering at the community center. He wanted to help others who might face struggles like Karen's. And as the seasons changed, Tom's cabin by the lake became more than just a quiet place. It became a symbol of hope, kindness, and new beginnings. Tom woke up early one morning. The sun was just rising, painting the sky with soft colors of orange and pink. He felt a quiet peace in his heart, but also a new sense of purpose. The cabin by the lake was still his favorite place, but now it meant more than just rest. It was a place where he had learned about kindness, patience, and hope. After breakfast, Tom packed a small bag and headed toward the community center. Today was special. They were holding a meeting for neighbors to talk about helping others in the community. Tom wanted to be there. When he arrived, the room was already filling with people, families, older neighbors, and volunteers like Lisa and Mrs. Williams. Tom took a seat and waited quietly as the meeting began. Lisa stood up first. "Thank you all for coming. We want to create a stronger, kinder neighborhood where everyone feels safe and supported." Tom listened closely as people shared stories about neighbors who needed help, people who lost jobs, had health problems, or didn't have a safe place to stay. When it was his turn to speak, Tom stood up slowly. "I want to share my story. A few weeks ago, I found someone living in my cabin without permission. At first, I was angry and scared. But then I learned about her struggles and her hope to start over." He looked around the room. "Her name is Karen. She is now in a safe place and has a job. But this experience taught me something important. We need to listen more, judge less, and help where we can." The room grew quiet for a moment, then Mrs. Williams nodded. "Tom is right. This is the kind of community we want to build." The meeting ended with smiles and hugs. Tom felt proud to be part of something bigger than himself. Later that day, Tom received a call from Karen. She sounded excited. "Tom, I have news. I'm moving into a bigger apartment next week. It's closer to my job." Tom smiled. "That's wonderful, Karen. You've come so far." Karen laughed. "I couldn't have done it without your support. You believed in me." Tom felt warmth in his chest. "We helped each other. And I'm here if you ever need anything." As the weeks went by, Tom continued to volunteer at the community center. He helped organize food drives, fundraisers, and job fairs. Each event brought the neighborhood closer. One afternoon, Karen visited the center. She looked happier and stronger than before. Tom was glad to see her. "I want to volunteer too," Karen said. "I want to give back." Tom smiled. "That's great. There's always a place for you here." They spent the afternoon working together, sorting food boxes and talking about their dreams. One weekend, Tom invited Karen to his cabin. The air was cool and fresh, with the sound of birds and water nearby. The cabin felt different now, full of memories and hope. They sat on the porch, watching the sun set behind the trees. "Thank you for giving me a chance," Karen said softly. Tom looked at her and smiled. "Thank you for trusting me. You reminded me what kindness really means." For a moment, they sat in silence, feeling the gentle breeze and the calm of the lake. That evening, Tom wrote a letter to the HOA. He thanked them for their help and asked them to support more programs like the community centers. He wanted to make sure no one else would have to live through what Karen had experienced. After sending the letter, Tom felt hopeful about the future. He knew challenges would come, but with kindness and understanding, they could face anything. Back at Karen's new apartment, she looked around at her small but cozy space. She thought about the cabin by the lake, Tom's kindness, and the people who had helped her. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe and strong. Karen smiled and picked up the phone. She called Tom. "Tom, I'm starting a new chapter," she said happily. Tom replied, "And I'll be here cheering you on." The cabin by the lake stood quietly under the moonlight. It was more than just a house now. It was a symbol of second chances, friendship, and hope. And for Tom and Karen, it was a place where healing had begun and where new stories would grow. The sun rose slowly over the lake, its light shining gently on Tom's cabin. The soft sounds of nature filled the air, birds singing, leaves rustling, and the gentle splash of water against the shore. Tom stood outside, taking a deep breath, feeling a calm he had not known for a long time. After everything that had happened, this morning felt different. It was a new day, a fresh start. The cabin was his home again, but more than that, it was a place where kindness had grown and new friendships had begun. Tom smiled as he thought about Karen. She was no longer living in the cabin, but their connection remained strong. They had shared difficult times and found hope together. And now, they were both ready to move forward. Later that morning, Tom received a text message from Karen. It said, "Thank you for everything. I'm starting my new job next week. Would you like to come celebrate with me?" Tom replied quickly, "I'd love to. Let me know the time and place." They had planned to meet at a small cafe near Karen's new apartment. When Tom arrived, he saw Karen waiting at a table, her face bright with happiness. "Tom," she said, standing up to greet him. They hugged warmly. For a moment, it felt like no time had passed since their first meeting. "I'm really proud of you, Karen," Tom said as they sat down. "You've worked so hard." Karen smiled. "I couldn't have done it alone. You helped me believe I could." They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives and dreams for the future. Karen spoke about the challenges she had faced and the new opportunities ahead. Tom shared his plans to keep volunteering and help others in the community. After the celebration, Tom returned to his cabin. As he looked out over the lake, he felt grateful. The cabin had been his safe place, but it had also become a symbol of growth for both him and Karen. That night, Tom sat by the fireplace, thinking about what he had learned. Life was not just about protecting what was his. It was about opening his heart to others, understanding their stories, and offering kindness when it was needed most. He realized that sometimes, the hardest moments could lead to the most meaningful changes. Days turned into weeks, and Tom continued his work with the community center. He helped organize programs to support neighbors in need. More people joined the efforts, inspired by stories like Karen's. Karen was also growing stronger. Her new job gave her confidence and hope. She started volunteering on weekends, helping others who faced difficult times. One afternoon, Tom received a surprise visit. Karen stood at the cabin door, holding a small plant. "I wanted to bring something for your cabin," she said, smiling. Tom took the plant and looked at her. "Thank you, Karen. This means a lot." They placed the plant on the porch together. It was a small symbol of their friendship and the new life they were building. Months later, the neighborhood had changed. People were kinder and more connected. The community center was busier than ever, and the HOA supported programs to help residents. Tom and Karen often worked side by side, sharing ideas and laughter. Their bond had grown beyond the cabin and the past struggles. One evening, as the sun set, Tom and Karen sat on the porch, watching the sky turn orange and purple. "Do you remember the first time you stayed here?" Tom asked. Karen laughed softly. "I was scared and lost. But you didn't give up on me." Tom smiled. "Neither did you. You taught me a lot." Karen looked out at the lake. "This place is special. It helped me find hope." Tom nodded. "And it helped me find friendship." As the stars appeared in the night sky, Tom felt a deep peace. The cabin was more than a home, it was a place where healing had begun, where kindness grew, and where new stories were written. He knew that life would bring new challenges, but with friends like Karen and a caring community, he was ready for whatever came next. Together, they were moving forward stronger, kinder, and full of hope.